I'm 78 years old. And only recently did I understand what I gave up in exchange for work. I'm not saying this from a place of anger anymore. That part passed. This is just what's left when the noise settles and there's not much time ahead. Most days are quiet now. Too quiet, if I'm honest. I wake up early out of habit, even though there's nowhere I need to be. My body still thinks there's a schedule to keep. Sometimes I sit at the edge of the bed and wonder who that discipline was really for. I don't tell this story to make myself look wise. I tell it because there's no reason left to protect the version of me that made those choices. He can't be helped now. When I was younger, work felt solid. It felt like something I could hold on to in a world that was uncertain. I grew up believing that providing was the same thing as loving. That being dependable mattered more than being present. No one said otherwise, at least not in a way I could hear. In my 20s, I didn't feel driven. I felt responsible. I had bills, expectations, people counting on me. Saying no to extra hours felt reckless. Saying yes felt like adulthood. My days began to look the same. Wake up early. Commute. Coffee that tasted burnt. Conversations that stayed on the surface because everyone was tired. I told myself this was temporary, that once things stabilized, I'd slow down, that there would be a season for everything else later. There was always a later. In my 30s, I was proud of how busy I was. It felt like proof that I mattered. I missed dinners, but I brought home stories. I missed weekends, but I brought home paychecks. I believe those things balanced out. When my wife mentioned that I was never really there, I heard it as stress talking. When my children stopped asking if I'd be home, I told myself they were adjusting well. I didn't think I was choosing work over them. I thought I was choosing them through work. That's the lie that makes everything seem reasonable at the time. Years don't announce themselves when they pass. They just move quietly, like furniture being removed from a room one piece at a time. There were birthdays I arrived late to, school events I meant to attend but didn't, conversations that started with when things calmed down. Things never calmed down. I became someone who was always needed somewhere else, always on the edge of leaving. Even when I was physically present, part of me was already gone. I don't remember the exact moment my marriage began to thin. That's how it happens. There's no clear break, just distance that feels normal after a while. We stopped talking about feelings because we were tired. We talked about logistics instead. Schedules, expenses, plans. Those things are easier. They don't ask much of you. By my 40s, people called me successful. I believed them. I had a title. I had respect. I had a sense of being useful. What I didn't have was stillness or curiosity about my own life. I told myself that wanting more connection was indulgent. That longing was a distraction. That discipline meant ignoring it. There's a certain loneliness that comes from being admired but not known. I didn't recognize it then. I thought it was just fatigue. The cost didn't arrive all at once. It showed up in small absences. My son stopped telling me about his day. My daughter stopped asking for advice. My wife learned how to make decisions without me. I noticed these things, but I didn't stop. Stopping felt dangerous. Work rewarded me for staying distant. Life did not complain loudly enough. Then time did what it always does, moved on without asking. In my late 50s, my health slowed me down before I chose to slow myself. That should have been the moment I paid attention. Instead, I adjusted, worked differently, worked smarter, still worked. I remember sitting in a hospital room after a minor scare, telling myself I'd make changes. I meant it. But meaning something isn't the same as doing it. Old habits have gravity. They pull you back without effort. The real turning point didn't come from illness. It came from silence. One evening, I came home earlier than usual. The house felt unfamiliar. My children were grown. The noise that once filled the rooms was gone. My wife was polite, kind, and distant in a way that hurt more than anger ever could. I realized then that I had outlasted the phase of life I was working for. I'd arrived late to my own home. There was no dramatic confrontation, just a quiet understanding that something had passed. You don't get announcements when opportunities expire. They just stop being available. Now, at 78, people ask me if I'm proud of my career. I say yes, because it's easier than explaining everything else. I did what I knew how to do. I just didn't know what it would cost. I thought work would give my life shape. I didn't realize it would also hollow parts of it out. Some things can't be revisited. Some conversations don't reopen once enough time has passed. That's the part no one talks about. Not all regrets come from mistakes. Some come from staying too long in something that once made sense. I'm not bitter. I'm just clearer now, and clarity has a weight to it. This is only the first part of what I need to say. I don't know exactly when I became an old man. There wasn't a morning where I woke up and felt different. It was more like realizing one day that most of my life was already behind me. Retirement was supposed to feel like freedom. That's what people said. No more deadlines. No more pressure. Time to finally enjoy what I'd built. But when the structure disappeared, so did the noise that had been distracting me. And what was left was quiet. And questions I'd never learned how to answer. I tried to fill the days at first. Little routines. Walking the same streets. Reading the paper even when nothing in it interested me. I thought rest would feel earned. Instead, it felt unfamiliar. Without work, I didn't know who I was useful to anymore. That was hard to admit. Harder than any long hour I ever worked. I reached out to my children more once I had time. Not in a dramatic way. Just calls. Messages. Invitations. They were kind. They were busy. I don't blame them. They were living the kind of lives I once told myself I was building for them. We talk now. But it's different. There's love, yes. But there are gaps that can't be closed with effort alone. You can't compress decades of absence into a few careful conversations. You can't rush familiarity. I see them more clearly now than I ever did when they were young. That's the cruel part. When they were children, I thought I had time. Now I have attention, but no urgency. My wife and I still share space, but not history in the same way. We remember the same events, but we live them differently. She remembers waiting. I remember working. Neither of us is wrong. But those memories don't fit neatly together. We're gentle with each other now. There's an understanding that comes with age, but also an acceptance of what never became what it might have been. Sometimes I sit and think about all the ordinary moments I missed, not the big ones, the small ones. Weeknight dinners, unimportant conversations, the kind that don't seem meaningful until they stop happening. Those are the things work slowly replaces without asking permission. I used to believe sacrifice was always visible, that if something mattered, its loss would be obvious. That's not how it works. Most sacrifices are quiet. They blend into routine. They look like responsibility. By the time you notice them, they've already shaped your life. People talk about legacy. I don't think about that much anymore. I think about presence and how little of it I offered when it mattered most. I was remembered at work longer than I was remembered at home. That realization stays with me. There's no way to say that without it sounding harsh. But it's true. Work replaced me quickly. New people filled the roles I once held. Life did the same. That doesn't mean my life was wasted. It just means parts of it were lived for the wrong reasons. I don't regret working. I regret assuming it was neutral, that it didn't cost anything important. That love could wait. It can't. If there's anything I wish I had understood earlier, it's this. Time doesn't reward good intentions. Only actions. You can mean well and still arrive too late. I don't say this to tell anyone what to do. I don't know your life. I only know mine. And I know that being busy felt like progress until it wasn't. If you're listening to this and you're tired all the time, if your life is full but somehow distant, if you keep telling yourself later, just know that later isn't guaranteed to feel like relief. Sometimes it just feels like quiet. There's nothing dramatic about the end of this realization. No sudden peace. Just acceptance. I live gently now. I pay attention. I listen more than I speak. I don't have many years left, and that's all right. What hurts is knowing how many years I had and misunderstood. If this meant something to you, if it stirred something you've been avoiding, you don't have to do anything about it right away.